I'm Marianne Markowitz. Today's coaching lesson shouldn't be more than 8 or 10 minutes. If you have pen and paper around, grab it. We're going to do some journaling. We did befriending your inner critic a couple of weeks ago. Now we're going to follow up with understanding your inner critic. Most of us, I think, have an inner critic. I know a few very special people who really don't have it, and I love being around them. They just have such a natural energy, a good vibe about them. You know who I'm talking about. For today, let's understand your inner critic. And it's that voice inside of you that says these just horrible things to you. Oh, you're never going to get this right. I almost did that this weekend as I was working on my pie crust for Thanksgiving. It's a really good tool. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to keep making pie crust until I get one that I like. So that's how that manifested for me. But how does the voice come up for you? Do you want to just break down and cry because you're so frustrated? You're a failure. You can't do anything right. You're a loser. I really, these are hard for me to bring up in the exercise because on one hand, I've done so much personal work over the many years that I don't have these as strong. I still have them, but they're way toned down. But when I hear you're a loser, that one is a trigger from older brother. So it's like, I don't even want to think about that one. But what is your inner critic thought like? And so we're here to understand, what is this inner critic? And are they doing more harm than good? Do they bring more self-doubt? And sometimes, dare I say this, I know people who have so much internal self-hatred that, again, you're around somebody with beautiful, open vibes. They're tuned into what they really want to do. I'm thinking of a gentleman we knew in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and he's a world-class artist now, sculptor. And I always looked forward to being around him because he just exuded that, he's just in the flow. No inner critic, versus being around someone else I can think of, and he was just so full of inner hatred that he was like this, and he literally, I feel like, died feeling like the earth was just pounding him down. That is what can happen with your inner critic. So we must understand this. It affects our bodies energetically, and once you become attuned to this, you'll see how it ripples out to others. So again, we're going to stay on target. What's our exercise? It's helping you understand this inner critic. So let's identify yours. And which parts of your life are you most critical of? Think of a picture of a pie. We have it sliced up. What you will more than likely find is that the 80% of your energy of beating yourself up is going to be around 20% of this pie, meaning what you're always thinking about is generally going to be the thing that you go back to. Are you beating yourself up about where you are with your career? Are you beating yourself up with where you are on the relationship scale? Are you beating yourself up on your, where you are financially? You know what those little squares are. And think about which parts of your life you're most critical. And then take in, when am I most critical? And this is a really wonderful building upon in group coaching, because what we will find as we explore different areas is that sometimes, certain times of the year, we're more critical of ourselves. Maybe it's, things start getting triggered in around the holidays. For me personally, it always comes up in February, and it's like, well, what's going on in February? That's the month that we moved when I was 7 years old, And just a lot of things happen at that young, tender age, as my mother used to call it. So think about your inner critic. Where do you tend to criticize yourself the most? Again, you can journal these answers. And do you do it? Is it more prevalent during certain times of the year? And are you using this awareness to become to where you can understand your limitations a little bit more? So just take that in, and now is where you want to pull out that notebook. What does it feel like to be self-critical? We can demonstrate it. Someone who is not taking in self-criticism, God, you're around them, you just want a big hug from them, versus someone who's very self-critical of themselves. They're like this, and they're probably very judgmental of others. If we're judgmental of ourselves, we're doing that to others. Think about the type of language you use when you're being self-critical. Write some of the examples. Again, the ones at the beginning, just to kind of, dig the dirt a little bit, I think are very harsh. I hope anyone listening here is not this harsh on yourself. If you are, we need to talk. But what are the things? I mean, for me, it's just the getting back into the game and the resilience, because I am always pushing to learn new things. Hey, that's a strength and that's a weakness, because we must learn to master a few things before we start moving on. So what is that inner critic telling me? It's just like I've tamed it down from you're never going to get this to you're going to get this, and let's just stay on this project. Let's stay focused on this, and then we can move on. So that's one piece. Now imagine this inner critic as another person who's speaking to you. So it's a good one to think about. What are your boundaries like? Are you always berating yourself and taking it? Which means, are you taking that from other people? Really? Okay, so again, imagine this other person is speaking to you in a very harsh tone. How would you react? Would you allow this? Again, just notice, what are my boundaries like? How good are you at negotiating? And it might be just that you need to get up and walk away if you're around someone who's being that way. Perfect. What do I always tell you guys in these little mini lessons? Change your state. If you're having a self-critical moment, get up, walk away from your desk, take a walk. If you're being self-critical or someone else is being critical to you, again, you can just get up and just internally say to yourself, well, you know what? I don't feel like being in this negative energy right now. They will learn, as your internal self will learn, you know what? She's just not going to play with me. She's not going to fight with me. So you're going to move on. And then if you would not allow this, how come you allow your inner critic to treat you this way? That's one of the questions. And if you would allow this, then just pause and think about it. And now we want to replace our inner critic. Now think about someone who loves you, maybe an aunt, someone who is a mentor to you in the past or now, and think about how they talk about you. This is one of the questions I ask often when I'm recruiting. It's like, what would your peers and your manager say about you if I call and check your references? Boom, people can start talking right away about how others see them. So see if you can reflect that onto yourself. It's like, okay, here's something that I think is a weakness, but I'm imagining what my aunt would say. And it'll just help you, again, change that state and start thinking differently. All right, so there you have it. How can you replace this voice of the inner critic with a voice similar to your friends or someone else who loves you unconditionally? And start sitting with this one a little bit. Journal. It'll help you clarify this and move past befriending and understanding your critic. Once we have these two, then we have a basis to change that awareness, and boom, let's make 2023 the best yet.